everybody, and welcome to episode 4. Tonight we're going to do a little fireside with Google Forms. And so I hope you're ready to have some fun and go through this massive teacher time saver. Hopefully you walk away from today's episode with a tip or a trick or an add-on that just saves you a ton of time, whether that's collecting data, sorting through emails, organizing marks. We already have so little time as teachers, and to use a tool that just makes life easier, whether that's for just working professionally with colleagues or trying to get information from students, this is the tool for you. And so today we're going to be going through the basics of Google Forms in order to collect some data, being able to create a self-grading quiz, looking at choosing your own adventure style assessments or storytelling. And then we're going to explore some add-ons that just really make things easier for booking appointments, for checking some things in and out, and of course being able to offer some certification and certificates. So we're also going to be giving away prizes this episode because you're going to fill out a form. So grab your Chromebook, grab your laptop, make sure you have a Chrome browser, open up Google Forms, and feel free to follow along. And we're going to get started with episode 4's adventure. So the first thing we're going to do is we're going to talk about using Google Forms to collect information. Whenever you need to get information from anyone, even if it's a single question, save yourself the time of sorting through emails and having to copy and paste information. Just simply use a Google form. And so I used a Google form to create our May Google Be With You registration. You can see that I've had 294 people fill out our form so far. I was able to describe the event, ask for basic information like an email address. I could of course put in an image in order to support the event. I could ask name, ask schools, and of course being able to ask grade levels, experience, interest, and thanks for all those great jokes. So you can imagine how long it would have taken me to have people just email me that information. And suddenly we're sorting through our emails and trying to gather it. So the first thing is, if you're trying to get any information, whether what do you want to do for fun day, to who's going to sign up for what committees, all of those kind of business related items of school, using a Google form is just so much easier. 1, you don't have to sort through emails. 2, it puts it all right within your form responses. And 3, the magic of Google Sheets. And Google Sheets is something we're going to be exploring in tomorrow's episode, but it's just where all of your responses get to go, time-stamped, organized, already put there for you, so you're not having to cut and paste and do that. And so I'm going to just start with creating a brand new Google form for the purposes of data collection. In this particular case, I'm going to make a Google form because we want to win a prize. Somebody out there that's watching this today, I'm going to be giving away a prize during tomorrow's Google Sheets episode, and it's going to be based on what you filled out today in our Google form. So you're going to see me do that. And so let's get started with that. I'm going to start building this form from scratch. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go to my forms.google.com, or of course I can simply go to my Drive and start a new Google form from there. When I'm going to start my new Google form, I'm going to go ahead and choose blank. The only thing that you'll notice here is that there are a few pre-done templates for you. And usually what I typically do is I start with a blank form if I'm doing data collection. And of course, quiz is because you want to have it auto-graded and have point values as part of it. Even if you start with a blank form, you can turn it into a quiz later. So when I start that lovely blank form, I'm going to be able to give it a title. And I'm just going to call this Who Wants to Win? When I go ahead and click my title, it'll draw that over for me. You can offer a description. And then you can start to add questions. It does give you a default multiple choice question. That doesn't always have to be the one you do. You can start typing a question, and Google will be smart and change the feature for you of the type of question based on the kind of answer or question you've asked. So here I can ask for name, and I can say first and last. And I can now choose, do I want to make that required? This doesn't allow people to skip that portion of that data for you. Now you can see here, there are many options when you're trying to create a quiz or use data collection. So whether you want short or long answer, multiple choices, check boxes, drop downs, all of these different things are available for you so that you can customize that data collection based on the information you want. And so in this particular case, I'm going to ask for first and last name. I'm also going to throw in a question because I want to do email, so I know I can email my winner. What Google's done for me is it says enable email collection setting. This is a really fantastic feature. So instead of somebody having to type their email address, which we know we can all make typos, you probably see me do it in my videos. When I enable email collection setting, it means that it's automatically going to pull in the emails based on the Google account that you're signed in with. So that's really handy because it's just going to automatically do that for me and doesn't even take up room as a question. You can also add some other features, like perhaps I could add another question, surveying my group. So here I've typed the question, what is your favorite Google tool? Well, I could go ahead and I can put in some options for people to be able to pick from because I know that there's many Google tools. Or I could, of course, change the format. I could change it to check boxes, which means people can choose more than one response. And of course, I can leave it as a short answer. I could even say, what is your favorite Google tool and why? Now, you'll notice here that my questions are a little bit out of order. Just remember, with any of these question cards, you can click and drag them and change the order of your quiz or your data collection. What is your favorite Google tool and why? There we go. I'm going to turn that on. Another question that I really like is you can also do a linear scale. So in this particular case, I'm going to ask all of you how May Google Be With You has been so far. Has this been helping you? So I can go ahead and I can change that to perhaps a linear scale. And I can say, number 1, I can say, blame-o. Number 5, we can call this out of this world. And people can give an answer. So this is what's really great about being able to make a Google form, is because you can simply decide how you want this to look, what's the overall feel for it. Just remember that you can also change things like your customized theme and color palette, and we know that you can change your image of your header based on the gallery that's offered to you from all of the different features from Google, and you can even upload your own. I also know that I can, let's see, I'll just change this to here. What will happen too is it will pull theme colors for you based on whatever you've chosen, but I can still adjust those theme colors slightly, change those background colors, and they also offer font style package from basic, decorative, formal, and playful. So I can make this look how I want. At any point, if you want to see what others are going to see when they fill out your form, you simply hit the little eyeball, which is the preview button. When I look at the preview button, I can see exactly what my form is going to look like, and I can even fill it out as a sample for myself, just to make sure that it's all working properly. Now, another thing that I really like to point out is your gear function, which is your settings. In your form, you can see that collecting email addresses has been turned on for me because I've asked for that to happen. When you're within a school domain, often what can happen is it can restrict users as a default. So because I'm from Edmonton Catholic Schools, the default is to automatically restrict it to Edmonton Catholic School teachers only. I know I have people from around the world working with us right now, so I'm going to uncheck that. If you want to limit it to one response, that's also an option. This is great when you're doing something like a quiz or a sign up. You can also choose, can respondents edit after they submit? What happens if a student made a mistake? They want to go back and change something. You can decide if you'd like that to show. Under the presentation settings, you can see, do you want to show a progress bar? This is very handy when you do have a multiple page or very many questions in a quiz. It's very helpful to show participants or students how much they have left to go of filling it out. Shuffle question order is really nice, and that is for students so that I'm not writing the same question at the same time as another student in the room. This works really well when questions are not progressive and don't have to build on top of one another. If your quiz, though, needs to be in a specific order, don't use this feature. You can also decide if you'd like to show the link to submit another response, and you can even make your own confirmation message. And I can say, good luck. I hope you win. Quizzes is the feature where we're going to turn on to make this a quiz. We're going to do this after with a different form. I'm simply going to say save. What I love about Google Forms is there's many options to be able to share a Google form. When I hit the send feature, this is where I can see those options. Now, in the case of Edmonton Catholic Schools, we can't use the mail feature simply because we don't have Gmail enabled. Anybody else, you're welcome to use that. For Edmonton Catholic Schools teachers, you'll need to use the link button. And this is where you'll copy the link and be able to send it via Outlook or however else you want to share that. Now, if you want to share this with students, you're going to actually assign that in the Google Classroom, which is way easier and you don't have to worry about this link. I also have the option to embed the form on a web page, which is what I'm going to do for our May Google Be With You. I'm going to put this right on our episode 4 webpage so that all of you can see it and try to fill this out. So you can see this is really easy to be able to share and get those to others. Also note that I can have this form and I can be collaborative and have other people be able to create this form with me. That's when I'm going to click the 3 little dots, the ellipsis that means more. When I do that, you can see I have a few options. Number 1, you can make it a copy of an entire form. This is really handy when you want to be able to leave your form intact, but still take the structure of it and perhaps use it with a different class. If I'm teaching perhaps Biology 20, I have a couple of sections of it, I don't necessarily want all 80 kids filling out the exact same form. I still want to be able to have the form filled out by separate classes, just for my own personal organization. I'm going to make a copy and name the form for each section. Of course, here's where I can see I can add collaborators, so I can have somebody else work on this form with me, which is really handy. Now, Danny has equal ability to be able to work on this form with me, and we can collaborate even if we're not together in the same building. If you want to prevent editors from changing access or adding new people, you can do that as well. So that's the basics of a form. What's nice is as soon as people fill it out, you'll start to see some examples of responses. So in this particular case, I had a form called Trisha's Selfie Survey. How much do you know about this crazy blue-haired lady? Well, I asked people's first and last names. I showed them a video. I asked them about my favorite food, my favorite hobbies, my favorite colors, and all those lovely things. And what I can see is as soon as somebody fills it out, I automatically see responses. Now what I can do with responses is I can see some of those bird's eye view summaries. I can look at things like averages, medians, and ranges. I can see the individual scores of students that I've assigned this to. And of course, I can see the individual questions just for that quick, at a glance, teachable moment to know how is my class doing with these particular questions, and I can see what that looks like. I even have a file upload here that you can collect data from your participants. Now, tomorrow what we're going to be going through is Google Sheets. And just know that every single form has an associated response sheet that's created for it, which means you can see every single bit of the data with a timestamp all completely organized. So that's something we're going to look at tomorrow. So it's nice. You're able to just completely collect that information by sending it out once and not having to sort through all those emails. Now we can use the exact same structure to start to make some things like quizzes or assignments for students. Now, what I love about this is that simply by taking a traditional quiz or assignment, we can put it into a Google form. But we now have the power of assistive technology to be able to help some of our students that need that little bit extra. As well as we can make these assignments and quizzes more fun and engaging for students, even if they don't have any academic limitations. We can do this by being able to have images and videos to support our different types of assignments. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go through and show you some different forms that I've used for assignments and quizzes for students so you can see the types of things that you can put in. So in this particular form, I have an engineering assessment from our grade 3 program of studies where students are being able to go through building testing materials and designs. And this was a playground and an amusement park challenge. So what I've done is I was able to create the assessment asking students first and last names. And then you can see that I started to ask some questions. With each question, I was able to have an image. Because every time you make a question, you do see the small image icon show up. As well, I can put in the types of responses I'm looking for. And you can see that for some of my questions, I can even have pictures be the answer and not just text. This is hugely important for our students that have text-based limitations, or perhaps they're English language learners, or emergent learners just starting to learn print-based responses. You can see that I can have multiple sections. This is like having multiple pages of an exam. This is very handy to be able to break apart your form so that you're not scrolling as much. You can see that I can have a video as part of an exam or a test, and then I can ask questions based on those videos. And you can just see how I can keep going and going and creating this type of quiz. I can also have simpler responses. This was an example of an early learning literacy and numeracy activity that I put in the form of a Google form. I have a video about I Spy, and then I simply started asking some questions. You can see here I've asked, I spy 3 apples. The students are able to look at the responses and use the images to be able to provide an answer. Same with letter identification and basic numeracy and synchronic tagging. I can also use a complete picture and have the response based on this. Another one is I have a Story Smarts. This is where we're looking at basic reading comprehension. I have a video off of YouTube from the great Reading Rainbow, looking at the grasshopper and the ant. Looking at this folktale, I was able to take screenshots from the video and ask basic reading comprehension questions for students to be able to fill out and show what they've learned. It is very handy to be able to put a quiz inside of a Google form because we do also have the options of having it being auto-graded and provide points and be able to have students get that feedback right away. Another really fun feature is for students to be able to make some of these Google Forms and surveys. You know, that time of year where we're teaching data collection and probability, and we have kids running all over the school with their clipboards asking everybody what their favorite ice cream flavors are so we can start to practice a little bit of data collection and graphing. Well, students are able to create their own Google Forms and send that out as a survey, and then they can use that to analyze the data and be able to make those graphs. You can see here I've got a basic ice cream flavors. What is your favorite ice cream flavor? We put in the flavors, we put in the pictures for the options, and now students can start to look at the responses and be able to look at things like calculating percentages, and then of course launch a Google Sheet. So now we can actually work with that data collection off the clipboard and start to put in our own charts and do our own organization, which is something that we're going to look at tomorrow as well. So let's go ahead and let's make a basic quiz. Now, of course, I can do this from the blank template, or of course I can do it from blank quiz. It doesn't matter because even if I start from a blank template, I can turn it into a quiz in that settings section. So I'm gonna start a blank quiz and we're just gonna do a basic question so everyone can see how this works. I'm gonna do a question based on wheels and levers. So now I'm gonna go ahead, I'm gonna ask my questions. I'm gonna go ahead, I'm gonna put in my lovely question about, is this an example of a wheel or lever? And I'm gonna try putting in some images. Now that I've started to type my question, I can start to give my options for my responses. Now I'm gonna go back a moment. Under wheels and levers, notice that on the side, this is how I can add questions, add text and title, add images, and add videos. Just know that if I have a really great video for students, like perhaps some of this Science Max, Simple Machines, and I want students to be able to even watch this before they take the exam, or I have small video clips that even I've made myself, it's really handy to be able to share that and put it in a form in order to engage and support students with their learning. So now I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to put this in my wheels and lever form. Here I'm going to add my YouTube video, and I'm simply going to paste it. Making sure, of course, we've watched the videos in their entirety before we show them to students. Whenever you add something like an image or a video, just know that that 3 dots meaning more always shows, and this is where I can change the alignment, or I can even change what I see. Now I can go ahead and I can do choose the lever, and for my options, I can leave it as option 1 and 2. If I don't want any text to show at all, I simply type a period. That way I have to have something that is there, but I can just have that image if I want. But now what I can do is I can go ahead and I can add an image. I can do a Google image search, and I can have that now be an option for the question. I can come down here, choose another one. Perhaps this time I'm going to do another search, choose a wheel. Know that that you can choose the pictures from your Google Drive as well, or you can upload ones that you've taken perhaps from class. When you do the search, they're all Creative Commons, copyright-free images that are free to be able to use. So I can keep going and going and going. Now, if I want to see what this looks like to my students at any time, just hit the preview button, and now you'll see what it will look like when others fill this out. Very easy. And of course, click the pencil to continue editing. So this is a handy way to be able to build those quizzes. It is hard, it is work to be able to convert perhaps some of our older quizzes just to be able to be something that's not on paper, but it's definitely worth the time once we realize how easy it is to assign this to students. The next thing I want to do is I want to be able to turn this into the quiz. Because I chose quiz from the template, it's automatically a quiz for me. But if you ever forgot and you started with a blank Google form and you want to make it a quiz, just remember to go into your settings, go to quizzes, and turn on make this a quiz. Now that it's a quiz, you can see, do you want the grade to be released immediately, or would you like to turn it after manual review? And can the respondent see missed questions? This is up to you to decide based on your professional judgment. Now that it's a quiz, I can go ahead and I can insert those points. I can do that by answer key. How many points do I want to be able to make the question? That's up to you. You can have different point values for different questions, which is nice when you do have some information that perhaps is more knowledge and skill and recall versus some higher level thinking. What I can also do is I can be able to add what is the correct answer. You can have more than one correct answer, which is really handy. But I'm going to go ahead and choose the correct answer. One of the most powerful features is adding answer feedback. What I can do is I can add feedback for incorrect answers and correct answers, meaning I can lead students to the information that they need next, whether they were right or wrong. In the feedback, I can give text-based feedback, I can include links, and even more YouTube videos, which is fantastic to be able to support that learning in the moment. Now that that's all assigned, I want to be able to give this to my students. Now, normally we would hit the send button and of course get that link. But in the case of students, we can avoid all of that by simply assigning it in our Google Classroom. This can be done with a simple and easy step. Once you're inside of one of your Google Classrooms and you go to your classwork tab, just know when you hit your create button that you can actually make a quiz right here from Google Classroom now, which is really fantastic. But you're not restricted to that. You can go ahead and make an assignment like you always would have made the assignment. So I'm going to go ahead, I'm going to assign my wheels and levers quiz. Remembering that when I'm inside of Google Classroom, I can choose which students I'd like to see this. And we're going to have an entire Google Classroom day, so don't worry if this feels new to you. What I'm going to do to assign my form is I'm actually not going to use the link feature. I'm going to click my Google Drive button. And God love Google Drive, it's going to pull up all of our recent things we've had open. There's my wheels and levers quiz. I'm going to add it. And what's really great, this is a newly updated feature this year for Google Classroom, is it automatically allows grade importing. This is fantastic. What it does is it makes sure that it limits it for one response to each user. It automatically collects the email addresses. It restricts the responses to users from your domain. Really, a lot of the features in that settings tab has been taken care of you now because you've assigned it right here in the Google Classroom. I go ahead and I say assign. Now all of my students have it. And if they take a peek at this, I can see even how many people have turned in and completed that form. When I go into my view assignment, what I'm going to see is that lovely form and who is able to have that filled out. I can also click import grades once that's all done, and any of those scored responses from my Google form will automatically be brought into the grades inside my Google Classroom, saving me a ton of time. More time to enjoy sitting by a fireplace, perhaps. All right, so that's the basics of quizzes. Really, it's just adding the types of questions you want, and do you want any images or videos to be able to help with that response. Now, a couple things to note if you're one of our Edmonton Catholic Schools teachers, we also have the Equatio extension enabled for our district, which means you can actually insert math. So this is a really fantastic way to be able to have math as part of your forms, and I have a video attached below for you to be able to see what that looks like. So now we're going to keep going forward and we're going to look at how we can now share some of these forms in some of these other ways. So another thing that I really like to do to share with students is to allow them to make some choose your own adventure responses. This is a really fantastic way to be able to create quizzes or assignments that are leveled and allow students to go in different directions. So in this particular case, this is from a cellular respiration example from our high school science. And what I have is I have a video about cellular respiration, asking students if they're a morning person, yes or no. Depending what they ask, you can see that I have a branching question. So if I go, if you are a morning person, you can see, go to section 2, morning person. If they say no, it will continue to the next section. What will happen because I created those sections, it will give them some new information that they're able to look at and be able to answer. How did I do this? Well, it was really, really simple. Let's go back to our wheels and levers example so I can show you how to put in a branching question. In the case of asking which one is the lever and students knowing which one's the wheel and which one's the lever, just know with any particular question, on the 3 dots on the bottom, I can go to a section based on an answer. What it will do is it's going to start to know, well, what's the sections that you want to have? In this case, I only have one section. This lovely little equal sign actually indicates a section inside of Google Forms. I can now make a whole section of questions based on levers because that's where I want students to perhaps review, because if they answered wheel, they maybe don't know enough about levers, and I want to be able to give them some more questions and understanding. This is also fantastic for creating math quizzes that are based on leveled responses. If you get this question wrong, perhaps you need to go and look at some lower level questions before we can do some of the higher level ones. What I would do is I would continue to put in the questions for levers. But now in my original question where it said choose the lever, what I could say is if the students actually chose wheels, then they actually have to go to the levers section so that they can learn a little bit more. So that's how we can make those branching quizzes. And you can see that when it came to choose your own adventure for cellular respiration, students were able to go through and choose the responses. We even have a really fun storytelling adventure. So this is great for kids to make choose your own adventure stories, which we've covered in Google Docs and Google Slides. And now what students could do is they can have images. And here, this one was created by the amazing Dane Sidonik of MTech team here with me. And he created a story about the Dark Knight returns to ECSD. And depending on the question, do you want to drive around the alley? Do you want to enter St. Anthony's? It tells you where you're going to go. And you can see how we have different elements of the story created. And it's just a lot of fun. Okay, so now we've made some really great assessments, some really great forms. Let's imagine that one of your colleagues wants a copy of your form. They're like, Trish, I saw your engineering assessment for grade 3. I'd really love a copy of that to use with my students. So we can do something called a forced copy. This is really handy when you don't want people messing with your form, because we know if anybody fills out a form, it automatically contributes to your data. So let's say I'm teaching grade 3, I make that engineering assessment, and I share it with one of my grade 3 colleagues. Well, I don't want her students filling out my form. I don't want her changing my form and editing it. So what I can do is make a forced copy. This is done in 2 steps. So let me show you what this looks like in order to share a form with colleagues. What I'm going to do in my engineering assessment is I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to click that lovely little 3 dots where it says Add Collaborators. It brings up the dialog window, and you can see that I have several collaborators that are able to use my form. Now, normally what the default is it's usually private, and so that no one can be able to see that. So what I have to do is I have to make sure that anyone who has the link can actually edit the form. I'm not going to let anybody edit this. Don't worry. I just have to make sure that that's the default, and it's already set for that. It now gives me a copy of a link to share with others that allows editing. Again, don't worry, I don't want anybody to edit this other than perhaps me and Danny. Now when I go ahead and I paste that in my email, or I paste that in a browser bar, on the very end of that URL, I can see something that says edit. And I'm simply going to change this to the word copy. So now when I take that lovely thing and I email it to somebody, or I send it to them, right away I can see that they needed to make a forced copy of my engineering assessment, and they can't actually touch my original Google form. This is a massive time saver. And so if you want to be able to make some forms as a department, perhaps, you can make some really great Google Forms, put them all together, co-collaborate on a form as a department, and now just share out copies with everybody who helped make that so that you don't interfere with the original data on your form. This is really handy. A lot of times when I make forms, I like to have one master form, and I'm actually just sending out and sharing copies of it, so I always have that original one with no responses in it. Now, we're going to end our episode with a couple of really great add-ons. Add-ons, again, are just those things that the app can't do on its own. So the first one I want to show you is a huge time saver, and that's called Choice Eliminator 2. This is an add-on that actually limits the amount of responses somebody can fill out. This is really great for people who are perhaps signing up for parent-teacher interviews. In my case, I use it a lot for something like perhaps a Google Summit, which we know we're having a Google Summit this August, and we're actually going to be giving away spaces as part of prizes for this month, so stay tuned for that. So I'm going to show you what it looks like if I want to eliminate choices for people filling out a form in order to sign up for sessions at a Google Summit. So here I have a Google form that I made for people to come to my Google Summit last year. We had our superhero summit, and you can see I was asking people's first and last names and emails and food allergies, but I have breakout sessions. Now let's imagine I do have hundreds of people that sign up for my Google Summits. I don't have room for 200 people to all come to Google Drawings. I want that choice to be eliminated as people are filling out my form. Something that you can do is you can use an add-on called Choice Eliminator 2. Now I've given you all of the add-ons I'm about to show you in this video as part of the site links below. And also know that with Choice Eliminator 2, it can be a little bit finicky, and they'll even give you a bit of an error when you first put it in. Take note. What it is that they're showing you is that if I send out this form with Choice Eliminator 2 and I send it out to 200 people and everyone's filling it out at the same time, it can't eliminate fast enough. So it'll say, okay, Trish and John has filled this out the exact same time. It can't catch it to eliminate the choices between us. So what I do recommend, if it's really important that only 20 people sign up for something particular, perhaps send out the form at a not high traffic time, like in the evening or very early in the morning on the weekends. That way people are spacing out when they're filling it out. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to configure this. I'm going to close that little dialog box, and I'm going to say, okay, what am I trying to eliminate the choices for? Well, in breakout session 1, I want to eliminate choices. What I'm going to do is I'm going to say how many people can pick each one of those different sessions. So it's going to create those options for me right now. Once it's done creating, I can go into the choice options, and it's going to let me set the number for each one of these particular ones. So I can go in and say I only have 20 spaces for each one, and I'm going to limit those spaces so that no more than 20 people can fill that out. What will happen is it says backup text. What happens when somebody doesn't see anything anymore? Well, there's just no more options, and I can leave that there. So now that I've got that, I can just simply close it, and I can go ahead and I can eliminate the choices for any of the different breakout sessions. So really handy in me not having to create these groups of people. A choice will just disappear and no one else can pick that anymore. Another one that I want to show you is not just the sign out. I want to show you how we can use a checkout. Check It Out is a really fantastic add-on because what it does is it allows people to be able to check out particular items and check them back in. This is really great for perhaps maybe you've got some makerspace equipment or Chromebook carts or iPad carts. And so what you do when you choose the Check It Out add-on, I usually simply start by a form which just says somebody's name. When I say add or edit the question response, you can see here that I have the items that are being checked out as checkboxes. Once I've added those, they're all now part of my lovely form. And when somebody goes ahead and they fills out this lovely form, I can put my name, if I can spell it right, and I can say, what am I checking out? I'm checking out the Dash robots, and submit. Now, I can submit another response here, but if anybody was to fill out this form again, what's going to happen is they're going to be able to see what was checked out and what was not. This makes it really handy because now everybody can be able to see the form. So maybe this time I'm going to check out the green screens. I'll put in my name this time as Jane, and I'm going to submit it. Now the next time I go back to the form, I can see, oh, I can't sign out the Dash robots. They're already signed out. But hey, I'm ready to check that item back in. I can go ahead and submit it. Oh, and I have to add my name. This is Trish. Trish is checking back in the Dash robots. Done. What's fantastic is we do know that there is a form associated with a sheet with every single one of these. So I can start to see my responses, and I can see what's been checked in and what's been checked out. But even better is there is a time-stamped form that was created for this. So now I can keep track of what's been signed out, when did somebody sign it out, what's been checked back in, who has what, and it just makes things really handy to be able to keep track of some of that basic equipment. And so give checkout a try. I really do love it. The final one that I want to show you is something really great, and I use this a lot for different events that I'm putting on or online courses I have, and that's being able to do some certification for people. If you want your students to receive perhaps a badge or a certificate because maybe they've completed a safety module as part of their construction workshop, maybe you want them to be able to earn a certificate for home reading minutes, whatever that is, you can use a really great add-on called Certify'em. So this one was suggested to me by our super awesome manager of MTech, Danny Moss, and it's a great add-on where it auto-generates a certificate for you as soon as you fill out the form and sends it to the person, really saving you a lot of time. You can also indicate a score. So let's say I was doing a safety module form for my CTF construction lab. I want kids to go through their safety and then they can start to work on their projects. I can create this Google form and they only get the certificate if they get a specific passing grade. So this is what this looks like. So I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to look at my Certify'em and I'm going to have the kids see that they're going to get a certificate. So I have Certify'em. You can put your exam name. You put the name of the person that you'd like to show on the certificate, and of course you can ask the questions. In this case, I just asked what color the sky is. What I can do is I can now say what is the passing grade, and of course it does give you some options of some templates that have already been created for you using Certify'em, so you don't have to do any graphic design, but if you did have a custom template that you did made that you wanted to use, of course you can use it. Once of course you get that, let's take a look at what it looks like in your email. So as soon as Lisa Simpson filled out this, I can see that on a specific date, this was her passing score, and it gives that certificate and sends that out. So it's a really fun way to motivate students or to use this to keep track of perhaps some professional development or, your different exam modules. So that's it. Google Forms, you can see, is a really amazing way. Lots of time saver options that are in there. Check out the site below for the links to all 3 of those add-ons that I have for you, and definitely fill out the form because we're going to see who wants to win, and I'll be unveiling the winner and the prize during tomorrow's Google Sheets episode. So I hope everyone's having an amazing start to their May, and I will see everybody tomorrow.